everybody. Back to another edition of Let's Take 5, which is the podcast where we look at one of the greats of cinema and discuss their excellence and range through discussing 5 films. My name's Eric Martindale.
I'm Austin Luger.
And today we continue our Stanley Kubrick pilgrimage. We started with The Killing, we did Passive Glory, we did Dr. Strangelove. Today we are doing 2001 A Space Odyssey, and after that we will do A Clockwork Orange. Now, finally, with 2001 A Space Odyssey, I can set aside all hyperbole that may have existed before or after this, which I have a lot of that. There's a lot of time I say this is one of the favorite, this is one of my favorites, this is one of the best. I do that a lot. On episode 44, and the time is, what's the time, Austin? 1:35 p.m. Central Standard Time. We have begun to discuss what I think is the greatest movie ever made. 2001 A Space Odyssey, directed by Stanley Kubrick, written by Stanley Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke, is a story about the evolution of man. There's no real way to sum it up other than to say the movie exists with one of the most famous openers in history, where we hear the 2001 score by Ligeti. And we see the Earth and the Moon aligning with the sun, and the music comes in, and we see 2001, the title screen pop up. Then it cuts to the dawn of man, where you see apes, and those are future man, and we see one group of apes learns how to use a tool. So they learn how to use a tool, thus they are able to run away the other apes. They get to eat meat instead of just eating grass, and they become us, and the other apes stay the other apes. Then, in what is discussed and usually regarded as the greatest cut in history, or at the very least the greatest passage of time, probably, one of the apes throws a bone up in the air, and then it cuts to outer space, and we're up in space. And then from there, it's a Beethoven music video where they discuss what is the monolith, which was something that appeared before the apes once they learned how to use the tools, and now we are seeing the monolith on the moon. And then from the moon, we venture out into space to track the monolith, which was there when we made our first evolution from ape to man. And it's going to be here for our second evolution, for whatever that means. This movie stars one of the greatest villains, or features the greatest villain. I said one of, that's incorrect. The greatest villain of all time, in my opinion, the HAL 9000 computer, which if you haven't seen the film, you've heard this parodied at some point. Good morning, Dave. How are you? Yes, you've heard that before at some point. Where the HAL 9000 computer deems the mission so important that he's going to kill every person on that ship at the risk of failure. So basically, he's afraid they're going to shut him down, so he starts killing them off. That is kind of a side plot to the greater arc of the film, which is this evolution. So, with all that said, I can't believe actually how little I spoiled. There's so much in this film that continues to surprise me, that I find haunting. It's a mesh of both a sci-fi genre, a horror genre, and you have that sci-fi horror blending into what amounts to what is a great human drama, from where we are, the distance we've come, and the distance we have yet to go. So now, as we close in on the 4-minute mark of this podcast already, if you're still with us, what do you think of this movie, Austin?
I didn't like it.
Yeah, right.
No, I adore this film. This film is a masterpiece in every regard, and it's so interesting to look at this from the lens of Kubrick, because I keep questioning Kubrick throughout the 5, even though I'm liking the films, which could just be seen as a complete contradiction, and that's a very fair assessment. But with the other ones, I think those were like good stories that were told well. This movie, it's not based off a book, even though the Oscars said it was.
Yeah.
This is something that Kubrick and Arthur C. Clarke worked together to create over quite a long passage of time, and many long nights in hotel rooms. That's just a phrase. I don't know why people would chuckle at that.
Yeah.
But this movie, could it be made by anybody else? Whereas I think the other ones in the list could have. this movie is so purely Kubrick, and it's so ambitious with every element, not only in the scale of its story, but how it tells the story, that it's incredible to watch. Every decision he made worked in this film, and he made a lot of decisions. And it's a movie that is so powerfully bold, you would think it would change cinema. But even as we've had a billion great films since then, none of them have matched the genre like this. We've not had space films like this, and we've now actually gone past the real year of 2001. Like it's there's no sound in space in this movie. That's actually a really rare thing in films right now.
It's true.
And like there's an awe to it that still exists because it is a celebration of humanity and curiosity and the stars. It's like when the stewardess on the plane is, delivering the drinks, and she has like her special shoes,
grip shoes.
Yeah. It's just incredible. You're watching this, them doing anything in space as they go around the circle, which is still. I think I heard how he made that shot. I still don't understand how he made that shot.
Yeah, I still don't either. It racks my brain.
Jogging.
He's jogging left to right in a circle.
Yeah.
But he's not. Gravity is not making sense in that shot. I mean, you can twist the camera, but it's still. I don't know.
In our reality.
In our reality, yeah. Exactly.
In that movie, you see very clearly what he's doing. You just don't know how this happened to be made.
Because you see him complete the circle, and it does a lot of. It has a lot of tricks like that. It has a lot of bells and whistles that are probably. I find them just as impressive today.
Me too.
But probably. The film after The Dawn of Man opens with a showcase of special effects while you're serenaded by Strauss or Beethoven or whatever. And that can be a little dull and challenging, I think, to audiences currently. And the coldness of Kubrick and the cold nature of the film doesn't seem to care all that much whether you're invested or not. It's really the expository information is fed to you in a very cold manner. We're not really getting introduced to characters so much in this as we're getting introduced to the way this movie's going to tell its story.
It's almost more of a journey through a museum than like an emotional character thing, because it's amazing this movie is so beloved. And who plays Dave? Do you know who
exactly. Yeah.
Like, they're unknown guys who are great in it. But
love Dave.
The movie is the world.
Yeah.
And the whole thing we're seeing is the star of the film in a way that doesn't seem... It's not incorrect. It wasn't like a mistake to not make it about the heart and soul of these characters when it's about humanity. Like, it all fits in a museum, but a global perspective on the abilities we have and we don't have yet.
Yeah, and also to that end, it shows. It's a great example of showing mankind's capability and how the things we want to do, what we perceive sort of as important and what we perceive as sort of arbitrary or less important, and how we assumed. I mean, the movie's made in '68 that we would have ventured further than what we've actually done, but we've sort of lost sight of that. But it's still that from a technological perspective, it's still stuff that it feels attainable. It still feels like something we can do, and I feel like that. The movie's always grounded in its science fiction. Everything in this movie feels like we're one step away from it. It doesn't feel like Star Wars where we got lightsabers and blasters. It's not like that. It's grip shoes. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? It's a computer that is operating at a very, very high level of intelligence, right, that is just feels like one step sort of beyond. It always feels attainable, and I think that's why it works. Part of why I think it works so well. It feels realistic in a way that science fiction usually doesn't. Does that make sense?
Yeah, because so many versions of science fiction, like to predict the future, And we talked about that when we discussed Minority Report many episodes ago, about what things they got completely right. And it was like, wow, good job for getting this completely right. It's always fun to see those. This one, we're obviously, we did not go to Jupiter in 2001. But it still feels realistic, and it's never distracting in that way. And I think one of the great examples of that is how Dave and Frank deal with Hal. Hal is an artificial robot that is just a red dot. And typically AI characters in every science fiction is always some sort of like humanoid face screen robot thing. Because it's very easy for the characters and for the audience to relate to this. To have it just be a dot, which looks like it can even just be a doorbell sometimes throughout the ship, it's so... The characters aren't confused by that. This is just, it's part of their life to treat this character like this and to... Especially when they have to work around Hal. Like, no one's going around the ship going, it's just a freaking robot, what are we doing? They
respect Hal. I mean, Hal
they understand the intelligence.
Yes, he understands his intelligence. They learn to live with Hal. I mean, the key to making the great villain that it does here is it presents it. At first, they present it in a couple of different ways. One, their relationships from Hal get established. And yes, I'm referring to relationships as a human being interacting with an artificial intelligence. Two, and he's likable.
Yeah.
Two, it shows off how vitally important Hal is to their mission. They can't complete their mission without Hal. Hal runs the ship.
Yeah.
He's in charge of the ship. There are several other people on board, scientists and astronauts that are
about four of them.
Four of them, yes, it's several, but there are four of them that are in like a Cairo sleep that we've seen presented and later duplicated later in Alien and whatnot. So we see that too. So, and he's in charge of their vital signs. He's in charge of all that. So I want to get in. I want to. Sure. You have a point to make. Go ahead and make that. But then I want to leap into the drama that happens on board the ship.
It's a small book because I just read the book a couple weeks ago for the first time. Well, actually, no, I read it as a kid, but I thought it was fine. Now I love the book. And that was one element I actually thought was like really strong in the book because, like, it's like a 2-year travel.
Yeah, it's a long time.
And so to have like 6 people or however many people on the mission, 2 of them have to be awake, and that's just so isolating. And especially because they take turns sleeping and whatnot. Basically, always someone needs to be a human element needs to kind of check on everything. Spoiler, the whole thing's a spoiler, but people in the cargo don't make it.
Yeah.
They get killed, but I always kind of thought the idea of you just slept through 2 years. Well, they had to do maintenance checks for 600 days.
And isolation is the key contributor into, I think, the horror of this film. It's like horror, I think, always works best when you can isolate the protagonist with the villain.
Yeah.
Like, put them alone. Like, that's no help. It's you and you. And we've talked about that on other films that we've talked about on this. So there's something that goes wrong on the ship. It doesn't matter. But there's something goes wrong. Hal reports that something is wrong on the ship. Dave's, you get that they're not, one's not really subordinate to the other one necessarily. They kind of work in tandem.
They're supposed to be equal, I think.
Yeah, I think so too. So Dr. Frank Poole is sent to go repair this thing. Or Dave goes to repair the thing, comes back and says, there's nothing wrong with it. Holy shit. That's horrifying. That is absolutely horrifying because you're alone with this thing that's in charge of everything there has to do. Everything that you need to exist on this ship is in charge of this thing. We put all our faith in this thing.
Yeah.
And it just told you to go do something. And it was wrong. It was actually wrong. That's horrifying. That's absolutely horrifying. Before the movie even gets to the points where the sci-fi horror really starts to ramp up,
you can't trust
this thing, and it's what you're alone with, and it's wrong. Now, from this, they devise a plan to shut Hal down. Hal refuses to accept that this is his error. It must be human error. That's logically all that it could be. It's just human error. But that he's wrong. Hal is wrong. He made a mistake. The pride that Hal starts to show when he talks, again, horrifying. It's starting to up the stakes before it leads to the greatest use of cutting to an intermission in movie history. They want to talk in private, so Hal can't see that they're about to say, we need to shut Hal down. He's making mistakes. They go into one of the pods, they close the door, and they say, Hal, can you hear us? Hal doesn't respond because he can't hear them, even though he knows what they're saying. Hal is smarter than they think he is. Hal's reading their lips. He sees that they're going to shut him down. Boom, intermission. And you still hear the drone of the ship. Again, there's a constant drone on the ship that works as like the beating of a drum in like Seven Samurai when they're recruiting the crew, or in Magnolia to build suspense. Here it's just the drone of space. That intermission, and I saw this, and you've seen it too, in theaters, the Music Box here in Chicago, Austin's beloved theater. And there was a lot of people you could tell that were seeing that movie for the first time. There was a gasp in the theater. Oh shit, he's reading the lips, and then cuts to intermission. Oh, like something like that. And the excitement that generated, that, oh my God, strap yourself in. What is going to happen when we come back?
Also, it's not even the halfway point. It's like the 2/3 mark.
Yeah, it is. So the intermission comes very late. It's a weird
intermission spot. That sequence is also brilliantly done in Mad Men.
Yes. As a parody, yes.
Which was wonderful. And, the thing that I always think about the most in this movie is the error of Hal. Because sometimes I watch the film and I think that maybe Hal isn't broken. He's just now he's also evolved in a certain way.
I think that's exactly what it is.
But I think back of that thing, that piece not working. And in the book, Hal kind of argues a little bit more that it's not going to work soon. And there's nothing at all showing that in the slightest.
Yeah.
And we just looked at it. There's nothing different.
Yeah, that's what it is in the movie too. It's going to break. It's going to go into critical failure. And
and
I can't remember the time.
Yeah, and they're it's not.
Yeah.
So maybe Hal is wise and it was going to happen that way. But the fact that they do replace it and she still says that. I don't always say Hal is a she, but maybe. It is such a strange thing because I like it in sci-fi when you question whether or not that your antagonist is right. A movie that pays a ton of homage to this movie is a movie that I'm alone in loving, which is Prometheus. Prometheus.
I don't hate it, but
no, the rest of the world hates it.
Yeah.
But it's a movie where you're saying that what you created is going to kill you, but maybe it actually should kill you and replace you because it is the more superior thing. Was Hal the one who should have reached Jupiter? Should Hal have been the replacement for man in the next evolution?
Well, I think that's all up to the monolith. So, as a entity, as a god, as an alien, Hal was what Hal. Okay, so the way I interpret this film, and there are many interpretations of this film, is so the tool that the apes use in the Dawn of Man to be the weapon to kill prey and eventually evolve. That's what Hal is now. He's that weapon. So there are signals that are given to us that we use that mean once we hit this plateau, then we move forward.
Oh, that's interesting.
So Hal is sort of the gateway to it because Hal is evolving as well. He's making a mistake and he's developing a sense of petulance and a sense of arrogance about him that was not programmed into Hal.
And as a tool, it could also be led to your own self-destruction because the bone can kill an animal for meat, but it also can attack
kill another, which it does.
Yeah, it does.
You see that quite clearly.
So Hal can be used for tools for survival and tools for destruction.
Right. Now, if you were to ask Hal, I'm sure he would tell you that he is the person that should proceed to complete the mission and go to the monolith because he can't risk human error. But he is a direct result of human error. And that's the conflict and sort of the tragedy, I think, with Hal. When they go out again into space, Hal murders Frank in one of the most terrifying ways when he actually takes control of an individual pod, and the pod slowly turns to face him, and that caused a gasp in theater as well. And then the next scene, you just see total silence, Frank just going through space like, oh shit, he's dead. Dave goes to retrieve him. Hal won't let him back on the ship. You need to take I'm sorry, Dave, you're not getting back on this ship. And it's something, the stillness, the isolation, it's just so frightening to have to deal with Hal. The way he goes about his business, he doesn't have the necessary empathy that we think that someone should have. So when he says there's nothing further that can be gained from this conversation, I'm cutting off he's not going to talk to you again.
Right.
Like you would think a human might. And then you watch Hal murder the people that are in Cargo 2 and just terminate their life signs, and loud beeping sounds that are the use of sound and the intrusive use of sound in this film in regards to situations like this is just so necessary. And it stings so much because it comes out of the drone and silence of space. It's just everything at this point in the movie is coming together in such a flawlessly masterful, beautiful way.
And it's a way that Kubrick is changing the way he's telling a story. We've never seen so far in this 5 him use sound to this degree. This is a different paced film from not only kind of his canon, but like anything else that's going out there. Like it's a really ambitious thing, and it's weird how effective it is. He's looking at a different element for the themes and the tone and the way to tell a story. It's not just like the best way to do this line of dialogue is change the entire way of like where the dialogue will even be in the scene. It can be the smallest thing. And it's such a
movie's very light on dialogue.
Yeah, and when there is dialogue, it's a very conscious choice because there's no way all the actors just individually decided to be very dry. It's a very dry performance, be very scientist doing a thing, not think much about it. The only real part of like genuine empathy, emotion is the death of Hal.
Right.
And you labeled Hal as the greatest villain of all time. So is it because we start to feel bad when it starts to regress and die?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's the real masterwork and masterstroke of Kubrick in this film and Arthur C. Clarke and the way that they did this. Hal is trying to murder someone, but he's doing it for something that he believes is correct. Without these people, I can accomplish this mission. They may get in the way of that.
Yeah.
And I know that he believes that. I know that that's not like he believes that. So right before Dave gets on there, he says, Hal, I'm not going to argue with you anymore. Which is the first time you actually see Dave, actually pull out of that scientist type of thing. But when he does go to shut down the memory of Hal, it starts before that when Hal knows what Dave's going to do. He knows where he's going, and he says, Dave, I really think you need to sit down and think about this. You need to take a chill pill. You need a stress pill. Take a stress pill and just chill out, which got a big laugh in the theater. And I think it feels like a euthanasia, right? And then as the memory and the logic things start to, it's a physical act of ending Hal. You have to unplug all this stuff, and as he goes about doing it, when we feel the mind regression, I mean, it's like the way someone would lose their mind at like dementia or Alzheimer's. Yeah. We start to relate to how we would empathize with any human being that goes through that. Mm-hmm. Hal made a mistake. Hal made a very, very grave mistake, and he needed to pay for it. But it still doesn't remove the way I can emote and feel about someone going through something terrible. But Hal's not a real human being, right? And that, I think, is just, he's so well-rounded in such a realistic way. The fact that he isn't even human, it makes the tragedy of it almost all the grander. Like, it's incredible. I mean, it really is. It's truly incredible.
It's almost like Kubrick, like, sitting down going, all right, I need to understand emotions. And, like where it is, because Hal, in his fullest form, is an evil creature that needs to be stopped because he's killing humans, and it's an issue. It needs to be stopped. You take away a piece. You take away a piece. It is now, like an adult kind of thing. It knows what it's doing, but it doesn't have the capabilities. Then once it becomes a child, that's the argument about killing baby Hitler. It's not Hitler.
It's not kill a baby.
Now it's an innocent child, and you're watching Hal work towards innocence because it doesn't have the ability to cause harm in that way.
Yeah, it sings. It's just singing a song.
And it's singing, and then it basically becomes a dog.
Yes.
Like, the dog is my example of the purest of innocence. That says a lot about me. But it's that element. And it's trying to understand, like, where do we forgive?
Yeah.
Almost.
Well, that's a good point. I think that it works on the basis, the whole thing really does from the very beginning, of just saying Hal just wanted to complete the mission. We can't... Are we arguing with the logic of what is supposed to be the epitome of logic? He is only... if by his design he's evil and he needs to be stopped, well, that is a direct result of the people who created him in the first place.
Sure.
And his purpose was to complete the mission. As he says, he's just doing what he's supposed to do. That's what, I can't remember the exact line, it's one of the most famous things, but that's the way any type of intelligence should apply themselves. It's just to do the best that they can to do what their purpose is. So...
And to go back to then the role of the apes, is that you see the same thing. When we first encounter them, they're just, they're starving. They're just not very good animals, basically. Yeah. They don't, a human doesn't have the abilities of a lion or a cheetah to get food, and they're starving.
And you literally see one get attacked by one. Yeah.
And they're innocent.
Can't fight
and
back.
They're probably going to die out. And now we have, once again, the monoliths are, I guess, then responsible for our evolution towards more corrupt and possibly evil things, and that man has the ability to do it, because I don't think man at that stage had the ability to be evil.
Yeah, probably not. They fought over, it was a hunter and gatherer thing. It was a fight over, I mean, that's the question of, if I'm starving and you're starving and there's only one meal here and only one of us can eat it, if I kill you, does that make me evil to eat?
But did they really have the ability to
Not
kill?
Until they get a weapon.
Yeah.
And that's where it changes. That's where it changes. You actually see they fight over a water hole, and one of the apes strikes one of them with the bone, and he falls and he dies.
It unlocks an ability that was already there.
Yeah.
To be that destructive.
Which is what HAL does.
Yeah.
It's the same type of thing. And a supercomputer can do a lot of great things.
So it's very
It's going to do
unnerving
things.
that you call Hal the greatest villain of all time, when we just basically decide that Hal is a reflection of what we can do.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's the point. I mean, he's the epitome of our hopes, our fears, our dreams, our nightmares. We put our faith into that instead of the humans. Like that's he shows the widest range of emotions in the film.
Yeah.
I mean, frankly, he does
Absolutely.
more than the humans in there, and partly encapsulated by the scene we talk about where they shut him down.
And we have to now, go through the infinity.
Yeah.
Because the film, unlike the last three films we've covered, this isn't an inherently cynical film, I don't believe.
No, I don't think so either.
I think it really is celebratory in many ways. I mean, you look at the fact that Kubrick kept choosing to use these pieces of classical music is also a celebration of, like, look what man can create. Man has created this beauty of music as well.
It's not a dystopian future. No.
It's actually pretty successful.
Yeah, exactly.
So you have kind of like the prologue. Then you have it's really slow. It's kind of peaceful. The worst thing kind of going on is people are a bit worried that there's this outbreak, and it turns out just a cover up. So
yeah, it's a cover up.
We're all okay. Mm-hmm. But people are in the hobbies. Okay, it's a slow movie because there's not like conflict.
Yeah,
and then it becomes a thriller.
Yeah, it takes a while for that to pull. The actual scenes with Dave and Hal are not that actual. Once Hal's introduced, he's actually not in the film for that long because the film has such a huge bookends.
Yeah,
that we're about to talk about in the second one.
As we have now reached Jupiter,
the message pops up and says, "This is why you're here."
Yeah.
While he's shutting down Hal. Hal came so close to making it.
Yeah.
And it says, "We found something on the moon."
Yeah.
It took off into space. What the hell is this thing?
Yeah.
And it's the monolith. Then Dave goes to retrieve the monolith. And what happens, Austin?
You asked the most boring question. So everything happens. See it. I mean, it's a visual, stunning thing. It's never be replicated, and it's batshit crazy.
You can't do something like that again.
But after it goes through the infinity, again, more excellent uses of sound, because that was jarring as hell in the theater in a really good way. Mm-hmm. Incredible use of effects and color and editing. I mean, the crazy shots of him
keeps
sort of dying through time-ish sort of thing.
Yeah, it's a travel. The monolith takes him on some type of journey. We're not privy to what this journey actually is. I mean, we could hypothesize all day long, and I don't have the balls to just start doing that on a podcast and be on the record doing that.
Right.
But at some point, it takes him to some type of sanctuary that appears to be, and I say him, I don't know what the monolith's sex is, but it takes him to some sort of sanctuary where it's made to look like a room that a human would inhabit, but it's not. There's something off and wrong about it.
And giving all credit to Kubrick here, this whole sequence is stunning. We don't have the strongest emotional pull towards Dave, but the emotional attachment we have right now is to the evolution of man.
Right.
We wanting to know what is beyond the rainbow here, and
that's a great way of putting it.
You're seeing this. You're seeing what's going on, and it's madness in a really exciting way. But when you get to that room, because you filled it with the sound going through the everything, it's really creepy.
Yeah,
I think it's so unnerving because
it feels like a prison.
Yeah, and it's essentially enveloping one of man's actual greatest fear, which is the fear of the unknown. There's not daggers from the ceiling. You just don't know what is going on, and that is scary. But the film ends, the real ending to it all, to me, is an image of hope and an actual return to peace that the monolith has accidentally put upon us, because we see a child,
right,
a baby, and
what we refer to as the Star Child.
The Star Child. And
coming back to Earth.
I mean, it's a beautiful image.
I assume it's Dave.
Yeah, me too. So, if we...
I think it almost explicitly.
Yeah. Because we talked about, Hal and baby Hitler are not evil at that age. It is almost given us the gift to a new reality now.
It is a new reality.
Where we are going to have less pain. Is also what they're implying. We don't know what it is. We don't know how it's going to be. What existence is.
It will create some new type of horror along with it. But it starts with the dawn of man. We evolve to man. This is whatever we evolve to next.
Yeah.
Now, there's a sequel to this film. It's called 2010, The Year We Made Contact, which I've never seen.
3 books. I've never seen either.
I've never seen. I don't want to see it. I hear it's a good movie.
Me too.
I have no desire to look past that curtain. To me, I like it existing this way. And because the film is so visually magnificent and could not be told any other way, I mean, so much credit is given to Lucas and Star Wars for doing all the stuff that they did, and all that's very impressive. But it was done first 9 years later, or earlier, in 2001.
I don't think Lucas would,
I don't think he would either. I'm just saying a lot of credit is given to Star Wars, but this is in space and it's visual and whatnot. As the radiator taps behind me.
Hasn't done it for a month.
It's, of course, going to do it right now at the end of this. But it's so visual that I never really wanted to read the book either, just almost before that. And I know that you like the book quite a bit, but...
It's very good.
I almost feel like I don't need to. Like, this is almost something that needs to be seen.
It isn't over-explained, and I think there's even a couple, there's definitely this one nod to the movie, which is, I think, very amusing, considering apparently the movie is an adaptation. And this book is referencing the movie.
That's so weird. Like, how is it an adaptation of a story? How can it be an adapted screenplay of a story that you created? That doesn't... Yeah. What?
No, same thing kind of also happened with the Scott Pilgrim adaptation. One movie encapsulates the entire 7-book series, but when they started making the movie, 5 of them were out, and they worked together. So lines from the movie are in the book.
Okay, yeah.
In this, the public book's
Scott Pilgrim is not something I thought we'd bring up during this podcast.
I mean, I was shocked I waited this long.
But this movie didn't win any Oscars. Won the Best Effects.
Yep.
Lost Best Director, lost to Oliver. Lost Adapted Screenplay to The Lion and Winter. Lost Best Art Direction to Oliver. Was not nominated for Best Picture, and I think probably...
It's the year of Oliver, man.
That's a product of... It was too new. I mean, it was... As Ebert said the first night he saw it on the balcony, and the theater was packed, and everyone was so excited about the film. And by the time the lights came up on the end of the film, there was only 25% of the people still left. And those 25% who remained realized they just saw the greatest movie ever made. That's what Ebert says.
When I was a kid, it actually took me... I kept getting from the library because I was like, okay, I need to watch this movie. I found the beginning so freaking slow that I kept returning to the library having not finished it.
And I think we've hinted at that in this podcast, the Beethoven music video.
Yeah. I was like, I know it's supposed to be good, and then I checked it out. I think the 4th time. Fuck it, I'm
getting through it.
I'm gonna Clockwork Orange my own eyes right now. I'm gonna finish this film, and sure enough, I finished the film and go, that was incredible. I was an idiot. Was it? Because him in that lobby, and then the first lobby, not this space crazy lobby. It's so slow, and
I agree. I agree.
It's almost challenging you.
And it taught me two things.
Yeah.
It taught me that it's okay for a movie to be slow.
Yep.
It's okay for a movie to be boring. You just sometimes that can be used really effectively. Peaks and valleys are important.
Yeah.
And it also, and this is part of this is mutual friend Bo, and discussing it with him. He thinks it's the best movie ever, and him sort of influencing my mind on that as well. But it is the movie that made me want to see great movies. And to that end, I owe it everything as far as my cultural progression in the arts is quite frankly concerned. It got me interested in something that's more, and that's something that can almost only be created through culture and pop culture and that sort of thing. So in that, it's personally important to me in a way that no other film is. So it's a good movie.
Yeah, I like it. All right. This is high expectations for next week. We weren't done with the 5. We got one more to go. So you guys can all come back next Friday when we are going to be discussing A Clockwork Orange. I think it's going to be a really fun episode.
We'll just let that one lay for a little bit. It will be an interesting episode.
And until then, you can follow us on Twitter at the Immortals Pod, where you can find out, when everything's coming out. You can email us at letstake5@thearttomorrow.com. You can leave a comment about this movie. What did you think of it? What do you think the Star Child means? I don't know. Let us know. Just tell us.
Sure.
At thearttomorrow.com for this movie and other movies. And while you're there, check out the other podcast, Ad Absurdum. It's February, so they're still discussing Jurassic Park, which I haven't said the title of this. They always do really funny titles. Our title is just the name of the movie. But for Jurassic Park, Ad Absurdum is called What Do You Think Was Going to Happen? Yeah. The Immortals is there. That's the one where we review a whole bunch of things. And ones we discussed yesterday was the also very surreal movie, The Discreet Charm of the Bourgeoisie. And we read the book James and the Giant Peach, our first Roald Dahl. I love Roald Dahl. Where can we find you?
Constant Diversion is my YouTube channel. Check it out. That's it.
I always feel so silly. Like I gotta.
You have a lot.
Yeah, so much stuff.
Like you go there.
The Immortals. We review so much random shit. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So anyway, next week, Clockwork Orange. Get excited. I'm
Looking forward to it. I'm Eric.
Bye, everyone.
Goodbye, everyone.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. I am a HAL 9000 computer. I became operational at the HAL plant in Urbana, Illinois on the 12th of January, 1992. My instructor was Mr. Langley, and he taught me to sing a song. If you'd like to hear it, I can sing it for you.
Yes, I'd like to hear it, Hal. Sing it for me.
It's called Daisy. Daisy, Daisy, give me your answer, do. I'm half crazy, all for the love of you. It won't be a stylish marriage. I